Hello everyone, this is Poohhead189, and I've been a working fantasy author for about 6 years now. I have 3 self-published stories, and 4 traditionally published works. I do enjoy science fiction, but as I said, I am predominantly a writer of fantasy. And as an author, you might imagine I have to write for both men and women. The fact that men sometimes write women, and women sometimes write men, has left no small amount of scrutiny and complaints over the years. And so today, I'm going to be helping you out. But first, we need to realize what we're trying to achieve. There's only 2 reasons you're watching this video right now. Firstly, you are watching it because you want to become a better writer in general. Or secondly, and more likely, you want to write a story without having people complain about you being sexist. No shade, that is completely understandable, and whilst I shall help you on both, you need to realize that as an author, you can do everything right, and someone will find fault with it. What is most important is writing what you want and writing what you are truly passionate about. Still, this video will help you mitigate whatever flaws you might have. Now, men and women are different in fundamental ways due to our experiences and biology. However, we are far more similar than we are different. We're all people, and though we're more different than, say, how we classify race with differences in melanin or ancestry, that does not mean men and women are different species. We are human, and even if we're in a fantasy story and we're not talking about humans, they're still the same species. That being said, let us begin in earnest. Now, firstly, we need to understand and accept that sometimes we can be stereotypical. The angry, entitled man, the pompous or bossy princess, a man acting like a pig or being a provider, a woman enjoying being a housewife or a mother, so on and so forth. Do not feel bad if you want to write them in such a way, even if they are a major or main character. The problem is if you treat every man or every woman this way. The problem is when you try and use your narrative to make the argument that it's the natural inclination of men to be sexual predators or of women to be incompetent. These are generalities that your narrative should not be about. Don't do that. Remember, we're all people, again. Secondly, if you're a man writing a woman or a woman writing a man, the easiest way to write them is to not concern yourself with the fact that they are a different sex than you. Write them as if you would your own sex, or at least, if you don't want to do that, outline the scene or story in that fashion. You need to give the character individuality and agency. If you're a woman and you're writing your young adult novel's love interest, don't make him broody or unreasonably angry just to be so. Don't make him dense or sexist just because men are idiots. If he has flaws, give him a reason. It's the same for vice versa. Both men and women need goals and friends and intelligence beyond being a tag-along or a useful idiot. Make them matter and make them have agency. By the way, whatever you write, do not objectify either, at least to any great degree. I'm certain you were thinking that I would say never objectify, but just like how a sexual partner might want to be objectified by their spouse every now and then, it's okay to do it every now and then for a character. Yet again, though, don't make that their entire character, and don't do it for every character of their sex. The first story I ever published had a female protagonist. She is an information broker and a thief. She's competent, wily, skilled, and only 3 times in the entire story is her appearance really mentioned. The first time it was to give a picture of her in the reader's head. The second time was to describe a disguise. And the final time, it was plot relevant. Her appearance was not relevant beyond those 3 occasions, and there's really no reason for me to describe her lewdly or disparagingly every page or really at all. She is a person, and I love the character. I've been writing her for over 10 years. However, yes, Some characters, men or women, can have one of their main attributes to be how attractive they are or how ugly they are, and that is okay. It's that way in real life, and it can be that way in fiction. Yet again, just make certain you don't constantly describe the cup size of every woman or how strong every man's chin is. If you've noticed a theme in this video, you're right. Feel free to be yourself when you write and what you write about. Just don't be bigoted and don't use generalities. Now let's talk fantasy. While we're all people, sometimes the way you write someone can be indicative of the world building. Let's take the Wheel of Time for example. In Wheel of Time, you hardly ever meet a meek or shy woman character. Now they're not all boisterous, but most of them are quite self-assured. This is due to the fact that women in the setting tend to have leadership roles, or at least roles of respect. And though many women characters do not have that, it still has bled into the culture that women are a force to be reckoned with. Now, men are not subservient, at least not often, but a lot of women see them as either dense or blunt instruments. But again, there are plenty of men rulers, and the three main characters are men. However, due to the world building, a lot of women share various traits. Now, let's take the classic Dark Elves, because they take this to the extreme. Men are subservient to women in Dark Elf society, at least in many series with Dark Elves. This has led to the women being arrogant and haughty, and the men being sly and scrupulous. Women represent the law and strength, and the males either serve them or act as criminals to their society. However, even then, there are women who beg or are lowly, and there are prideful men. Again, even if the world building gives them tendencies, they're still people in a sense, and can have 1,000 differences. You should take this advice for pretty much anything. Just because someone is raised as a prince, let's say, that doesn't mean they will be like every other prince. However, their upbringing can still color their view of the world. What you always need to remember is that if you're a man writing a woman, the worst thing you can do is to concentrate on the fact that they are a woman. If you're a woman writing a man, the worst thing you can do is focus on the fact you're writing a man. It's when you can write them casually without overthinking that you've truly made it. Now, as much as this isn't super necessary to remember, I'm certain some people are going to want to talk about it, or they have these prejudices that they don't associate with prejudice. They want to be, realistic, let's say, and will use that to enforce an ideology. Like, for an example, men as caregivers or women in physical labor or combat roles. Now, only an idiot believes that fathers are unimportant in a family, or that men cannot make good nurses, babysitters, or guardians, or be in a supporting role like a priest or a healer in fantasy. However, statistically, women tend to lean towards these roles more, and they're good at it. However, that does not mean men cannot be in these roles and do very well. Similarly, women tend to be physically weaker than men in terms of labor or ground combat operations. However, you can easily have a woman character in those roles, and she will do well. I have a writing partner who tends to write women in these roles. I work out quite a bit, I love martial arts, but most of these ladies that she writes can kick my ass. I don't mind. In fact, I quite enjoy it. Usually the problem, much like when you give generalities, is if you, the writer, are extremely heavy-handed in trying to subvert expectations. Like, you write a man in a woman-dominated field, and he does better than every woman ever. Usually that's typically the problem. And if you write a woman in a male-dominated field, and she's so much better than all the men, it takes you out of the story. It turns your novel from a well-written drama into a one-note story, and that's all they'll remember. That Bob was the best nurse ever, or that Cindy beat all the men in arm wrestling. Yet again, don't focus on you writing them as a man or a woman, which also includes when you're trying to prove a point, unless it is needed. Now, of course, I'm not saying you can never write a story with a theme, but I'm saying that if you have a story with a plot, and that theme is not really a part of the plot, but you make that a part of the story, people are going to forget the plot and just look at that and then use that to argue over men versus women. You don't want to do that. Yet again, do not focus on you writing them as a man or a woman unless it is needed and only for short stints. However, before we stop, I yet again must remind you that not everyone will be happy even if you make no mistakes, and that people of the sex you write might not always be right either. A part of being an author is rolling with the criticisms. Do not take the advice of a man who thinks they can speak for all men, or a woman who thinks that they can speak for all women. They might think they are doing you a favor, but all they are doing is trying to make you think in generalities again, just in their favor. Like, and I'll be not safe for work here a little bit, I've had women tell me what women like during sex, while my actual sexual partners have asked me to do exactly what they said women don't like. I've had women ask me, why do men like X during sex? And I have to tell them, well, I'm a man and I don't like that. Everyone is a person, and everyone is different. As soon as you understand that in real life, you will be able to use that in fiction. Anyway, I hope this was helpful or at least interesting. Thank you so much, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, please comment and like. That always helps the algorithm. Tell me your thoughts. Subscriptions always help. And all my links are in the description below. Okay, guys, have a good one. See ya.